I just pressed the let's go live button. We're waiting for the stream to fire up all across the fruited plain of the internet. Didn't even turn the lights on. Get the light. Go. There you go. One on. Okay, here's another one. Beautiful. Now we're ready. Hey, is the stream working? It looks like it is. That's tremendous news. That means we can go ahead and get started. So let's do it, shall we? Hello, my friends, and welcome back to yet another episode of Watching the Watchers Live. My name is Robert Gouveia. I am a criminal defense attorney broadcasting from the Valley of the Sun, deep in downtown Phoenix, Arizona. And today, my friends, we are talking about destruction, death and destruction, to be very clear about this. Now, I'm not sure if you saw this, but I did. It was all over the Twitterverse today. It was all over the news. Drudge Report had it. It said, Donald Trump is a psycho. See that there? Threatening the Manhattan District Attorney. And there was a lot of hubbub about a very interesting post. We are going to take a look at some of the posts. You see, I blocked some of it out here due to the YouTube guidelines. But we're going to go through this because I think there's a whole lot more to this story. But people like Keith Olberman and other people on Twitter are demanding that there is some sort of penalty here, asking for an arrest, that he should be picked up immediately for inciting violence. And of course, we're going to go through that here because there's a lot more to this story. And I'm not going to share it here because I think we'll get a strike if you do share it. Be careful out there. I think YouTube is going to be cautious with this one. So we'll take a look at the backstory on that. Then we'll look at some of the reaction. Hakeem Jeffries is already jumping onto this, along with Keith Olberman and others. And there's a story that evidently some white powder ended up at Alvin Bragg's office. Not good. You don't want white powder there. Somebody needs to check on Hunter Biden's crack dealer. We've got other clips from Ted Cruz. We're going to see what he had to say about this. All of that is coming out of the Manhattan office, but there's a lot more to that because there's also the entire special counsel investigation that we've been a little bit quiet on for some time. Jack Smith, special counsel, is making some major headway here. I was actually a little bit surprised by this, but is overcoming two very important privileges that Donald Trump was using to defend himself, one of which was executive privilege. And we're seeing that former Chief of Staff Mark Meadows might come in to testify at the special counsel's office. And then we also have Evan Corcoran, Trump's lawyer, is going to have his privilege broken, and apparently he's going to be testifying too. So interesting stuff. We're going to see what is going on there. Two articles on that topic. Before we turn our attention back over to the Proud Boys trial, it's going to be day 43 for us. And boy, we had a great conversation about this with Viva today. And so shout out to our friend Viva. Had a great time over at his house on Rumble and talked all about this. But there was a lot more to get to today. A great question. Am I related to a long distance runner, John Gouveia from New Jersey? No, I'm not. But my uncle is named John. But I don't think he's a long distance runner from New Jersey. I'm going to have to ask him about that. We'll go back to that one. All right. So the trial thread, day 43 of the Proud Boys trial. And Julie Kelly, if you're not following her already on Twitter, she's got the transcripts. I just want to jip a little bit from that and share that with you because it's disgusting. We had a late night order that came out from the judge. And then, of course, we will go in to the trial thread in full and see what happened because there's a lot to unpack. I think Roger had over 150-ish tweets for us, which are basically transcripts when they come over from Roger. So we're going to get into all of that and more. But my friends, if you want to be a part of the program, the best place to do that is by heading on over to watchingthewatchers.locals.com. We do member-only content, member-only streams, whether you join us on YouTube as a member or on Locals as a member. There's a lot of extra stuff, and we'd love to see you over there. And so before we get into the program today, we, of course, have to say thank you to our sponsors and support them and get our energy energized so that we can prepare for the program. And what better way to do that than with our friends over at Field of Greens, because we'd all like to lose some of those extra leftover pandemic pounds. But we've tried all these diets and all these programs and the 15-minute videos and all this stuff. And we know that we've been there, we've done that, and they just don't work. But you know what does? Eating healthy, eating your fruits and vegetables every day. You do that, and the weight would probably just start falling right off. But vegetables, not a fan. Fruit, who's got time for that? It goes bad in the fridge and all that. Instead, let's talk about Field of Greens. Very great product, science-backed, specific formula. Fruits and vegetables you're not going to find in any other product. We know that proper nutrition reboosts your metabolism so that you can burn calories faster and lose weight the healthier way. And Field of Greens is the only brand backed by a better health promise. You're going to look healthier. You're going to feel healthier. You're going to be bursting with energy. But the best thing is going to come at your next doctor's visit when they say, whatever you're doing, keep it up. You look fabulous. And so let's get you started. Go on over to fieldofgreens.com. When you go there, there's a ton of other stuff. If you don't want Field of Greens, they've got a lot of other products for you that will help at Field of Greens. And don't forget to use code Robert. The vegetables want to be eaten. And they are happy when you're healthy. So check them out over at fieldofgreens.com. All right, my friends. Now, let's get right into the meat and potatoes of the program here today because it is going to be fun. Donald Trump in a little bit of hot water about some Truth Social posts. Or is he? Well, some people are calling for his arrest again, but that doesn't really change anything. A lot of people have been calling for his arrest for a very long time. But this one is spreading around today like wildfire all over Twitter. Donald Trump posted this on Truth Social, and you can see we have it blurred out a little bit for us because I do think that the image that was shared would probably violate the YouTube community guidelines. They're calling it incitement, and they're saying that in this image underneath that red box there is a picture of Donald Trump with a baseball bat that might be aggressive towards Alvin Bragg. And it's not in the same image. They're two images side by side. You've probably seen it by now, so you can go look it up. But I'm going to come back to this because I don't think that Trump ever intended for that to go out. I'll explain what I mean shortly. However, the media saw this and they flipped out big time. You see Drudge Report, Psycho Don, Psycho, threatens a Manhattan district attorney. And there was a white powder that also got dropped over there. We're going to take a look at that story as well. And so they're taking this post and they are hyperventilating about it like they normally do. And there is an explanation for it. I'm going to defend Donald Trump very aggressively in a minute. But here, this was posted on Twitter. Norm Eisen posted this. Threatening a prosecutor with a baseball bat is a crime in New York. In fact, it's multiple crimes. Harassment in the first degree, New York law. Menacing in the second degree, New York law. Stalking in the fourth or third degree. And that's just for starters. And they were retweeting this off of Patriot Takes, which said Trump's article is a photo of himself holding a baseball bat next to a photo of Manhattan DA Alvin Bragg. And you're thinking to yourself, what? Trump posted that? He posted himself with a baseball bat next to Alvin Bragg? He did that? That's a little bit nuts, right? It's kind of crazy. Why would he do that? That doesn't make any sense at all. Did he do that? Let's see. Others were not giving him any benefit of the doubt, of course. Keith Olberman, who sometimes, well, I'm not really sure what he's doing here. He's doing his normal thing, very agitated and riled up. Face is shinier than mine. Here's what he had to say about Donald Trump posting that truth.
Donald Trump must be arrested for his terroristic threats against Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg.
Reasonable, yeah.
In social media post yesterday, Trump called him a, quote, animal. Trump insisted he be, quote, removed. Trump showed a picture of himself holding a baseball bat, posed exactly as in a movie murder scene, next to a picture of Bragg. It is a call to murder by stochastic terrorism, a murder by remote control as disgusting as Charles Manson. Arrest Trump now, and insomuch as Trump has threatened Bragg and 3 other prosecutors, Trump has already proved he is an active mortal threat to all of them and to all of the lives of all witnesses involved.
Yikes.
Trump cannot be granted bail. The Friday Countdown podcast is now available.
So subscribe to my podcast, by the way. Hey, Trump's a murderer. He's going to wreck America and all the. Also, please like this video wherever it is you're watching it. You can subscribe. Podcast is out, available at 5. Oh my gosh, hysterical. So that's what I was talking about, right? This is the thing that's happening out there in the Twitterverse. All of the lefties are melting down over this. And what's interesting is they're calling for his arrest, no bail, no bond, no due process, just throw him right in the can because it's Donald Trump and they hate the guy. Arrest him, prosecute him. And I was wondering, I go, well, this is weird. Why would Donald Trump post a baseball bat picture of himself? I mean, that seems overly provocative, and I like a good spicy Trump post or something, but that sounds a little bit too much, right? What's going on here? Well, let's take a look. So this was the actual thing that happened. Okay, so Donald Trump didn't post the picture on his True Social. He actually posted a link to the website, which you can see is cut off here, but it's at thenationalfile.com. And as you have probably experienced in the real world, when you will share a link on a website on your social media, you'll see that it'll just pull an image up, right? You don't select the image. The search social media site will actually go to the URL. It will pull an image off of the website and it will shove it in there. And you may not even know what that is. It happens all the time. So, you share an article and it will pull up an image. Seems like that's exactly what happened here. So Donald Trump was saying this. The National File was talking about an article, talking about a story that said just 10% of Manhattan residents voted for anti-Trump DA in the 2021 election. Right? It has nothing to do with Trump attacking Bragg. It has nothing to do with any violence or call for violence. It has nothing to do with anything. It's an article, probably an article that Trump was just reading, and he said, this is great. I'm just going to post this on the internet. And so he did that, right? And he just linked the article. But the person who wrote the article selected an image that's a pretty problematic image. It's a picture of Donald Trump with a baseball bat going towards Alvin Bragg, right? You go, uh-oh, that's not good. You don't want that. But my point is Donald Trump just dropped the tweet in. And then it dropped. And you're saying, oh, well, Rob, that's a huge problem. How do you do that? And so I wanted to share this example with you that if you actually have a WordPress website, you probably are familiar with this. And so for my, tech brothers and sisters out there, you know that you can do this. You can actually go in on a WordPress post or a blog post and select a separate image. So you can have a whole post, and you've seen this. You go to an article, and let's say you're browsing on Facebook or Instagram or whatever, and you click something, you see an image, you click the image, it takes you to an article, and you don't see that image in the article, right? You go, that's weird. It's because when they wrote the article, they selected a better image just for the social media thing. And here, there's a setting in a gearbox where you just go and you say, I want this image, this separate image that's not even in the article. My point being, Trump could have read the article and not seen that image. I don't even know if it's in the article because I don't have the full URL. But if it's you can just copy it and put it in there separately, or you could even change it after the fact, right? Go in there and update the social media post. Say Trump shared my article. Now I'm going to go in and change the social media post after the fact. So Trump didn't post that image. He posted an article that had somebody who selected a social media image in there. So I think the whole thing could have been actually set up after the fact, to be honest, but I don't have any evidence of that. But the point is, Donald Trump, once he realized it, he actually deleted the post in the first place. So it's not even still there, but it's, the media is still hyperventilating about it. If you click the link, it will open up True Social, and there it is. Not found because Trump deleted it. Because somebody either, inserted the image after the fact, or it was an image that Trump didn't see, and he just retweeted the article because of the substance of the article. But nonetheless, everybody melted down about it. They were asking about it today in front of the press briefing room. Hakeem Jeffries was out there, and they said, what's going on here? Trump's calling for murder. Trump's going to be beating up prosecutors with baseball bats all over the place. What's going to happen here? Are you guys going to do anything about this? You should arrest him again.
Mr. Jeffries, in one of his late-night Truth Social missives,
The
former president said there would be a potential for, quote, death and destruction should Alvin Bragg choose to charge him in his investigation. What's your response to that?
Well, the twice impeached former president's rhetoric is reckless, reprehensible, and irresponsible. It's dangerous, and if he keeps it up, he's going to get someone killed. We've already seen the consequences of incitement from the former president. He is principally responsible for inciting the violent insurrection that happened on January 6th, but clearly he has not learned his lesson.
Clearly not learned. Yeah. So he's also insurrecting again, even though the first one wasn't even an insurrection. So it's just this big thing over and over. Every time he gives them a little bit of something to latch onto, they'll do it. And he does, to be fair, he does constantly push that line big time. And it may come back to bite him. We'll have to see. But this is not exactly that right now. There were other posts there. There were other posts about death and destruction. And he was saying that there will be repercussions. And, there's a lot of language that is getting close to the line. And people have concerns about that. And I'm not endorsing that language. And if I were his attorney, I would be squirming in my seat right now every time he posted something that even came close to that, because they're already chomping at the bit. They already are looking for any excuse to indict him, and they're probably going to do it. And this is just another excuse to do it. Now, that being said, Trump might want that to happen. I've been asking myself, why is he kind of goading them, so to speak? I think he wants to be indicted, especially out of this New York case, because this is the dumbest case of all of them. If Trump's going to be indicted on any of these three investigations, Georgia, special counsel for J6 or election 2020, or for Stormy Daniels' statute of limitations expired cases with Michael Cohen as the star witness, which one do you think Trump would like to get started with? Because the first one's going to be the biggest one. Whatever the first indictment is going to carry the weight of everything. And if he can come out and say, my first indictment was a Stormy Daniels indictment, it's going to take the legitimacy out of all of the other pending indictments. So I'm kind of feeling like he's goading them. Go ahead, indict me. Let's see what you do. There'll be death and destruction, and there'll be serious consequences. Peaceful, whatever. He doesn't say that, but he's kind of implying peaceful. So bring it on. And that may be why they are not indicting him, right? The repercussions of this, they're starting to recognize this might throw him right into the White House.
It's also very unfortunate that the extreme MAGA Republicans in the House of Representatives continue to back President Trump and his reckless and his violent and his hateful and his disgusting rhetoric.
All right. So they are very upset about their language and Trump's rhetoric, and just, emotionally hysterical, as is usually the case with the Dems. But they often forget about their own language. They don't like to look inwardly at their own leaders and the own advocates for their own party. And so, as usual, let's take a little trip down memory lane, shall we?
I just don't even know why there aren't uprisings all over the country.
Wow.
Maybe there will be.
Uprisings.
People need to start taking to the streets. This is a dictator.
There needs to be unrest in the streets for as long as there's unrest in our lives.
Enemies of the state.
Show me where it says that protests are supposed to be polite and peaceful.
Do something about your dad's immigration practices, you feckless.
When they go low, we kick.
How do you resist the temptation to run up and wring her neck?
The biggest terror threat in this country is white men, most of them radicalized right up to the right.
Whoa. White men radicalized by the right. Wow. That's from Don Lemont. Yeah, that's great.
Police station, you get out and you create a crowd. And you push back on them. And you tell them they're not welcome anymore, anywhere.
And sadly, the domestic enemies to our voting system and our honoring our Constitution are right at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue.
They're not going to stop before Election Day in November, and they're not going to stop after Election Day. And that should be, everyone should take note of that on both levels, that this isn't, they're not going to let up, and they should not.
So it's just a nonstop, one-sided standard. They constantly cry hysterically about it, but their own side does it every day. So, all right, that is them. Now, Ted Cruz, I think, is making an astute point. Now, Ted Cruz, by the way, if you're not familiar with this, he has a podcast, just so you're sure and you're aware of that. But Ted Cruz explains why Alvin Bragg may be getting some cold feet. Maybe all the things we've talked about this week are finally adding up. The revelation that Cohen lied to Costello, the revelation that Cohen waived privilege, that he was lying to the grand jurors, that Cohen paid Stormy Daniels of his own money, and that Stormy Daniels even signed a notice that she had no affair with Donald Trump. We read through all of the documents here. All of it seems to be adding up. Statute of limitations issues, and now people are wondering if Alvin Bragg is concerned about his law license, concerned about malicious prosecution or some other form of repercussion that might have longer lasting effects on him. Here's Ted.
This potential indictment is an absolute outrage. It is baseless. It is utterly frivolous. And I think we should be grateful that Alvin Bragg has backed away. I think Bragg may be getting cold feet. As you know, every week I do a podcast. It's called Verdict with Ted Cruz. Monday's podcast.
Don't forget to subscribe and
was
like.
a deep dive for an hour, walking through the law and the facts to demonstrate why this indictment is so utterly baseless, why there's no statutory grounds for it, why it is prosecutorial misconduct and a partisan witch hunt. Yesterday's podcast that I
His
put out,
podcast.
entitled
Don't forget
Three
to like
Big
and subscribe his
Victories,
podcast.
talks about what happened, which is once this became public, a bunch of Democrats got really nervous that Alvin Bragg, this left-wing, Soros-supported DA, ironically, if he brought this bogus case and lost in court, which would be the inevitable outcome, Alvin Bragg could end up playing a pivotal role in re-electing Donald Trump as president.
Yeah, big time.
I think Democrats are scared out of their mind, and they're telling Bragg to back off. And the fact that he sent the grand jury home is a big victory. I think there's a very real possibility he says never mind and runs away.
Doesn't do it. Doesn't do it.
Potential
Podcast Ted
indictment.
Cruz saying maybe Alvin Bragg doesn't actually move forward with an indictment. And what would that do? We were talking about this with Viva today, and we were asking whether or not that would ignite the left. An indictment of Trump would ignite the right. A non-indictment of Trump, would that do the opposite? Would that ignite the left? Would they get fired up over that? And be like that scene out of Breaking Bad? He can't keep getting away with this. I don't know. We'll have to see. Now, even if the Manhattan DA peters out and just whimpers out, much ado about nothing, which is seemingly more and more likely, the prosecution of Trump is definitely not done. They're going ahead full steam, and Jack Smith is the person who is leading this. And he came in, remember, from the International Criminal Court, and he was appointed after Trump declared that he was running. They raided his house, his residence in Mar-a-Lago. Then he declared. Then they said, oh, well, now it's a conflict of interest because he's running again. And they said, we better appoint a special counsel. And we've had all sorts of conversations about this process. Now, unfortunately, huge portions of this are done under seal. The special counsel is just operating in the dark of night in dark grand jury rooms, drafting subpoenas and conducting interviews and all sorts of things that we can't really see yet. We will at one point, but not yet. But we are hearing from a number of sources that he is making some pretty serious headway. And one of those efforts involves having the ability to interview and question Mark Meadows. Meadows and other Trump aides, according to ABC News, are now going to be ordered to testify. They were putting up a force field. They were saying, we don't have to testify. We're immune from Jack Smith because we were former executives in the executive branch. We work with Donald Trump. We have a very strong protection, like a force field, that insulates us from this. It's called executive privilege. Unfortunately, a federal judge has rejected that and ordered Mark Meadows and other former top aides to testify before a federal grand jury investigating Trump and efforts to overturn the election and the events leading up to J6. Meadows, Trump's chief of staff was subpoenaed along with other former aides. Trump's legal team had challenged the subpoenas. They said we have privilege. In a sealed order last week that we don't see, Judge Beryl Howell rejected Trump's claim of executive privilege from Meadows and a number of others, including ODNI member John Ratcliffe, former National Security Advisor Robert O'Brien, former top aide Stephen Miller, Dan Scavino, going to be on the line. Aides Nick Luna, John McEntee, former DHS official Ken Cuccinelli. Trump is going to appeal the ruling. Meadows didn't respond to a comment. Lawyers said, the DOJ is continuously stepping outside its standards and its constitutional norms. The deranged Democrats and their comrades in the media are corrupting the process. Attorneys have declined to comment. So we don't know what they have. We don't know what the investigation looks like, but the force fields are coming down. Like Star Trek shields up. They just popped right through that one. And there's other issues as well, because it's not just the executive privilege. When you say, how can we protect somebody from inquisitions, you want to identify a basis for that. executive privilege is a strong one because we want the executive branch to operate with some ability to operate with candor, to communicate freely amongst themselves. If they're going to be the subject of a criminal prosecution and a criminal inquisition, everybody's just going to be not doing anything, right? Nothing will get done because they can't openly communicate. So they broke that one right open, and we don't know what that will lead to. But the other one that they cracked open was with Evan Corcoran, Trump's lawyer. This came over from Bloomberg. Trump's lawyer, published today by Zoe Tillman, March 24th. Trump's lawyer is now going to testify before a grand jury probing classified documents. Former defense attorney Evan Corcoran spent more than 3 hours in a federal courthouse on Friday today, appearing before a grand jury probing the handling of the classified documents. There he is. Exited the courthouse around lunchtime, declined to answer questions. His grand jury appearance came after Trump's legal team lost a secret fight to stop him from being forced to face clients. A federal appeals court on Wednesday denied motions by Trump lawyers. 3-judge panel ordered Corcoran to produce the panels. Corcoran. Grand jury proceedings are sealed, not open to the public. We can't see them. Corcoran has spent part of his time as a team of 5 lawyers representing Trump in a number of different things. This is along with the documents probe, as well as a separate investigation out of Smith's office. Former federal prosecutor, he was involved in coordinating the response to the grand jury subpoena back in 2022. And so it is getting hot right now. This is a lot less in our faces. The DA stuff is in our faces. We can see it. We can hear from from Cohen and Costello. We're hearing all about this, but the rest of this is taking place in secret. And this is considerably more significant. If they indict Trump as a base on out of this is the DOJ indicting him. This is not some partisan hack called Alvin Bragg. This is the entire Department of Justice that comes to this conclusion. And I still think this is going to come up. So we'll see. I don't think Trump's off the hook quite yet. Well, not by a long shot. But of course, we will continue to cover it. There will be a lot more on it. We will see what happens on Monday. The grand jury is supposed to be reconvening. And of course, we'll continue to cover it wherever it is you're watching this. Thank you for subscribing, and we'll look forward to seeing you on the next one. But we're not done here yet today. We have to continue on. Even though Donald Trump has not been indicted, others have. And we got to get into it. ProudBoys Trial, day 43. The case continues. Yesterday, we left off with some very troubling revelations, one of which was the idea that a confidential human source, aka an FBI informant, had been embedded with the defense team, with defense prayer groups, with defendants themselves, family events, who knows what else they were doing, even at attorneys' offices. FBI informants at attorney offices. What? That's right. Now, there was a very significant order that came out late last night. It was a minute order. It said, this is from Judge Kelly. In light of the discussion on the record today about today's hearing, it is hereby ordered that any defendant, anybody with factual information that may aid the court's resolution of the parties' various disputes here, shall proffer that information under seal, and if appropriate, ex parte, meaning you don't even have to tell the other side about it. Just give it to me and me alone. You don't have to copy the prosecutors. Just send it right to me. Send it by 9 a.m. today, March 24th, Friday, signed by Judge Kelly. Interesting order. Now, we were asking ourselves what actually happened yesterday. And if you're not already following Julie Kelly, you should be. She's on Twitter at Julie_Kelly2. She's doing great work on this. And although we read through a bunch of what happened yesterday, she was able to get her hands on some transcripts. And she went through, there's a whole thread of these. So make sure you go follow her to read all of it. They're well worth it. Trust me. But she was also on Laura Ingraham last night and did a great job. Really great appearance. And I appreciate that more people are going to be hearing about this. And the message is getting out. It's just amazing. But she pointed this out. She says, as I pointed out on Laura Ingraham last night, just like Whitmer Fednapping, there are more FBI informants than defendants in the Proud Boys case. more informants than defendants in the Proud Boys case. As we've speculated, we don't know what the numbers are. Is it 10 to 5? Is it 2 to 1? Is it 3 to 1? Is it 5 to 1? We don't know. But we read through the testimony, and this one stood out. From defendant attorney Mr. Jaraguay representing Enrique Tarrio. This is what came out in court. They said, Judge, when yesterday, when we were informed, this is your defense attorney speaking, Judge, when we were informed, by the government, they said, hey, by the way, your witness that you're going to call tomorrow is a confidential human source. It says, and this is a confidential human source that we've met with multiple times. We've met in our office in Miami. What? That we've been getting ready to testify, and all of a sudden, yet again, another CHS? As Your Honor knows, there are more CHSs in this case than there are defendants, and every day there's a new one. I asked my intern yesterday, are you a CHS? Because it's just one after another. Says, this CHS was in the defense camp, spoke to the family, spoke to the defense attorneys, and just like our other lawyer friend, Mr. Smith says, was always gathering information as to what was happening in the case, okay? At all times. Says these men are being prosecuted for statements that they made, and they're using those statements. Those statements in this case, Judge, as Your Honor knows, all the exhibits are telegram statements. They're all parlor statements. They're being prosecuted for their assembly in a group called the Proud Boys, okay? And it gets even better. All these CHSs are cloaked in secrecy. It's disgusting. And so you'll have to go over there to read the rest of that from Julie Kelly. Amazing thread. But this stood out to me. We've met in our office in Miami. The FBI sent informants into defense lawyers' offices. If you're a defense attorney out there listening, what are you feeling right now? I'm just curious. If you're a prosecutor out there, what are you feeling right now? Are you feeling good about that? I know a lot of prosecutors, and they're very good people, most of them. And they, I think, would be disgusted by this. Because it's disgusting. FBI sending informants into your defense attorney's offices and prayer groups and family dinners and the whole thing. And all throughout the preceding pendency of this case. This wasn't in the investigation stage. This was after they had been charged. These guys are sitting in prison and they still have an informant who is rummaging around their offices. They called this person, to prepare the case. We need you to come and testify. We want to learn about how you can help our case. It's an FBI informant. Unbelievable. So we're just getting started on this. And as usual, we're going over to Roger Parloff. March 24th, day 43, Proud Boys Trial. Now, I'm pretty upset about this, but his YouTube channel got nuked. My account has been shut down for a week due to stupid community standard violations because he posted up a Civil War podcast and some other videos. Look at this. Team YouTube. Ugh, jerks. All right, well, we're going to have to come back and flag that for Team YouTube. Now, as you know, well, actually, I don't know what he posted. We don't know what's in there. But anyways, hopefully they bring him back. Gosh, YouTube. Anyways, as you know, the train was derailed. Defense raised new problems. We've talked about all of that here. We read through the motions, and we're up to speed on the case. Now, we're waiting for Judge Kelly to take the bench, and he does. After a little bit of a delay this morning, It might have to do with a glitch in getting the defendants transferred to court. So they're taking their time. Everybody refills their cups of coffee. And we're back. Judge Kelly is on the bench. All rise. All right, Judge. All right, thanks. All right, thank you. Please be seated. Judge says, okay, well, we've got a few issues to attend to today before we bring the jurors in. It seems like Enrique Tarrio sent over an issue. There were emails, but we're not going to deal with that right now. We're going to deal with the Enrique Tarrio issues when he calls his witnesses. Now, his defense team, Hassan and Sabino, they say, well, Judge, we want to call a different witness first. They were going to call this confidential human source person, and they want to call someone else. Tarrio and his team, they say, Judge, this confidential human source, they may get cold feet if we don't get her done first. So they want to call her first. They say, Judge, this was our witness. And when we were saying we were going to call her, the government told us she's not really our witness. She's actually the FBI's witness. She's an FBI informant who we thought was our witness. They said that's a problem, but they said, we're cool with that. We still want to call her because now we get a confidential human source on the stand. Brilliant. Let's get it. McCullough, the prosecutor, says, hold on a minute, Judge. There are issues that need to be resolved in terms of the scope of the direct exam, saying, well, we don't want them to be able to call her and ask her whatever they want. They can't ask her about being a confidential source, right? This is what the prosecutor is asking or trying to get at. Yeah, they can call her, but they can only ask her about being a Proud Boy or being with them, not about her involvement with the FBI, is where they're trying to go. And the scope of the cross, including whether any of these allegations of government misconduct are going to be raised and issues about the witness's status, right? They really don't want her to get on the stand. Judge says, okay, let's come back to this issue after we excuse the jury today. We don't believe, and they say, we don't need to do it today. They really don't want her on. And they say, also, we don't believe the defense complied with their discovery violations with her. Remember this yesterday? So they're saying they didn't disclose her on time. So she can't be called because they didn't tell us that they were going to call her on Friday, back on Wednesday. The judge said they needed 36 hours. They didn't disclose it to the prosecution on Wednesday. So they're saying, Judge, in addition to not having her come on here because we don't know what we can ask her because we don't want her to ask about her being a CHS, they're also out of time. And so the way to make the best use of the jury's time is to let's put the uncontroversial witnesses on the stand first, then release the jury, and then we can discuss it. Because the prosecutor would want nothing more than this informant to get cold feet and not want to testify. That'd be great, especially if that prevented them from getting any CHSs on the stand. Remember, they've wanted to call other CHSs, including Kenny Lizardo, who picked up Enrique Tarrio after he was released from jail, the day before J6. Judge said, well, gosh, I know you guys really want to call this witness, but if we plowed ahead right now, he says, I foresee a million unresolved issues that would make this very slow. Your witness is under subpoena and they're not allowed to absent themselves, so she'll stay here. Yeah, but the defense says, yeah, okay, Judge, that's fine. But the government, they caused this. They didn't tell us this before. For them to inform me one day before her testimony that she's an informant threw my plans into disarray. Judge says, I don't care what your plans were. Call the uncontroversial witness first, and then we'll take up this one. But Hassan stands up, also for Tarrio. He's now arguing, no, Judge, we really want her. It's our case. We want her first. We're being prejudiced literally right now. In this moment. You said it's our case. We want to call her. She's here. Let us call her. The judge said, yeah, but we left court yesterday with an expectation of how we'd proceed today, and we're going to stick to that. Now, that means she's not going today, it sounds like. Nick Smith, representing Ethan Nordine, he says, I don't want the jury to be instructed that my client has rested because there's still a possibility that he might testify. Judge says, okay, fine. Defense attorney Hernandez says, hey, Judge, by the way, I'm planning to tell the jury about this government misconduct, just so you know. And the defense doesn't have to preview her questions to the government before they call their witness. So you better believe we're calling her and I'm bringing it up. And I don't have to give them any hint about what I'm asking. Shout out to Carmen Hernandez. She also emphasizes that media hoopla over a CHS could frighten her away. Judge says something, we don't know what it is. And the judge brings in the jury. All right, defense, please proceed. Defense calls Enrique Tarrio's first witness. His name is George Mesa, a.k.a. Asher Mesa, a.k.a. Asher Bar Koziba. They say, George Mesa, a.k.a. Barracoziba, can you tell me about your names? And he says, yeah, sure. I'm a convert to Judaism. I converted over 24 years ago. In Israel, I'm Asher. Bar Koziba is a reference to a failed ancient messianic attempt. I went to rabbinical school in Israel. Since 2009, I've been a rabbi. Lives in Florida. Oh, thank you. Where were you born? I was born in New Jersey, grew up in Miami Beach, stationed in Fort Bragg, Fort Benning, lived in Israel for 5 years. He says, there's a famous saying. I'm not saying this, okay? So he said it, not me. He says, there's a famous saying, 2 Jews, 3 opinions. Many people dislike things I teach, mainly. I don't think I'm familiar with that phrase, but that's what he says. Mainly proselytizing. He says Jews are given a right to return. I went to Israel to finish rabbinical and to get a degree in computer science. I've got a bachelor's in computer science. I spent 2 years in yeshiva. I work in computer science, served in the U.S. Army about 3 years, received a general discharge, terminated my service short, not eligible for benefits, GI or VA benefits, and says I live in South Florida now, Broward County, near Fort Lauderdale. And today I'm a network admin. I own my own company. I had a synagogue for 2 years, North Miami Beach, and I teach online. I teach Hebrew, I teach Judaism, I teach Zionist history, and I don't make much money for that. So why are you here, George? He says, well, I'm subpoenaed. So I flew up here, stayed at a hotel. Are you being compensated for this today? He says, no, I'm not being compensated. Staying at a hotel. Can you tell me about your politics, George? He says, yeah, I identify right of center politically. I says, I believe in the Constitution. Shout out to George. Love my country. I'll do what I need to do to protect other Americans. And can you tell me about how you became a Proud Boy? Sure, yeah, I became a Proud Boy during the time of the riots. I saw that only group that was protecting Americans were the Proud Boys. I found a documentary on Vice about them. I contacted them around June or July. Says my views are consistent with the Proud Boys regarding Constitution and love of country. Agree with them completely. I was 3rd degree Proud Boy on January 6th. I was in Vice City chapter in South Florida. Enrique belonged to that chapter. Are you a Proud Boy today? No, not a Proud Boy today. He says, well, how come? Right now, the organization doesn't really exist. We sort of turned on each other. I was booted out of the club. Many Proud Boys tried to distance themselves from anything having to do with the Proud Boys. My disassociation occurred officially about 4 months ago. Can you tell me about what the Proud Boys believes in and sort of why you wanted to be there? Oh, yeah, sure. Well, it's love of country. He says, we're a reactionary movement. We don't go out looking for trouble. We're there to protect Americans, exercising the right to support a certain candidate. But we're being attacked when returning to their vehicles. He says the Proud Boys had an open political ideology and says there were actually Democrats in the Proud Boys. Says, I saw the Proud Boys as the only ones fighting back. I considered them in this climate as an ally. Thank you for that great introduction. Now, I'd like to ask you a couple of questions about an exhibit. You show me what this is here? You recognize this? Oh, yeah, that's the Constitution and the bylaws of the Proud Boys. What are those? Well, these are like tenets of the club, sort of what makes up its ideology. Every Proud Boy had access to this document. Well, what did this say? Well, this first paragraph says pro-free speech. What does that mean? It means we're against censorship. We're against people being canceled. What does this say? Well, this is about eligibility and non-discrimination. What does this mean? It means we did not discriminate based on race or gender or even political ideology. White nationalists, white supremacists, or any of those other things, they're all prohibited. Says they were kicked out, or they should have been. Any large organization, what I call the riffraff, if they're here, they go. And this doesn't discriminate by sexual orientation. He says, I met homosexuals in the Proud Boys, and I considered them as brothers. Very inclusive, welcoming. I did independent journalism. I'd go to rallies. All I saw was support. I felt I had to document that the representation media gave on the whole topic was wrong. The average minority felt very comfortable around the Proud Boys. He says, we put our lives in danger to protect them. Tario and I were friendly, not very close, but friendly. Did you ever meet Biggs? No. Nordine? Anybody else? I never met Nordine. I may have run into him. Same with Real and Pizzola. May have run into them, but don't really recognize. With Tario, he says, any issues outside? Well, no, outside of issues not pertaining to the clubs or events. I didn't talk to him like a buddy, but we did work together as patriots. I think he had great leadership skills, he says. But he was kind of a mixed bag in terms of enforcing the tenets, not a real stickler for the rules, he sounds like. Sometimes you have to appease a certain segment of the riffraff in order to move forward, but for the most part, he was a good leader. And were you in the Telegram groups here, George? Yeah. Yeah, my name in the Telegram groups was Ash Bar Koziba. Belonged to the Proud Boy security chat and the MOSD chat. And the MOSD2 chat and the Sweet Sweepers and the Boots on the Grounds chats. And you were in there. Did you agree with everything that was in those chat messages? No, I did not agree with everything. It wasn't common, but when dealing with such a large group, some use of abusive language, I didn't feel depicted what the average Proud Boy believed. Racial slurs, anti-Semitic language. I called that out. I felt that they were misrepresenting the club. I try to call out things I see as incorrect. In this case, racist. There was a handful of individuals who tried to fit in by using language they shouldn't be using in a chat created to protect the Proud Boys. Here you see some messages. Ash says, one thing we should speak about is what to do if we confront clandestine Proud Boys, meaning unaffiliated Proud Boys, saying they're going to come in and mess things up. They say, what did Tario mean when he said focus? What did that mean when he says focus right here in the messages? Well, Enrique's main focus, says George, was to protect the Proud Boys. He felt very responsible. If someone would get hurt, objection, sustained. Tario never told me any of this, so that's going into speculation territory there. If Tario never told me any of this, when we joined the chat, that was what was stated on the top. The whole purpose of the Ministry of Self-Defense was self-defense. It was to protect the Proud Boys from getting stabbed. He felt that this was something that should be handled in different chat rooms, not one created for self-defense. He says, well, you deal with that in another group, essentially. The mission was to protect the Proud Boys, and it had nothing to do with disrupting the vote. Now, why would individuals that expressed white supremacist views not be kicked out of the organization, George? Why wouldn't they kick them out? I don't know. Now, I want to ask you about this hand symbol that you guys use in the Proud Boys group. It's sort of the OK symbol. You put your thumbs together and the three fingers up. You've seen that. Is that a hand symbol that you guys use? Where'd that come from? He says, well, nobody really knew where it came from. It's used as a form of satire, I guess. He says, media said it was racist, so we did it even more to kind of antagonize them and to defy them. Says, yeah, I use that symbol. It's a Buddhist symbol as well. I do not have alt-right views. No. Are you saying that you're putting those fingers together because you're talking about white power or white pride or whatever they're saying that it is in the media? No. Are you an alt-righter? No. Do you think that you would join that group if they were racist or anti-Semitic, given the fact that you're a former rabbi? I wouldn't join a club that was racist in any way, especially against Jews. And says Tario did not like confrontation within the organization. That's what made him a good leader. The objective was more important. Protect the Proud Boys in this instance. And how far back did you join the Proud Boys? About November 2022. And membership grew exponentially after the debate. More people were familiar with us, and it grew majorly. I was not involved in vetting then, but after January 6th, I did become involved. I participated in the November 2020 rally in DC. What was it like? Well, it was very disorderly. There was a major rally in DC. It was trying to keep us focused, trying to keep America safe. It happened in the daytime. We were out there supporting our candidate. And when they went back to the hotel rooms, then news started reporting about news like Antifa was targeting conservatives who were walking back to their cars. There was an incident at the Willard. We received a text that we were going to go and aid the situation. And there was another rally in December too. There were a lot more Proud Boys at that one. It was an official event. Proud Boys were marching a little bit more prepared with more protective gear that time. At that time, we saw Antifa and they were carrying knives. People were encouraged to wear something, a cutting board or something so we wouldn't get stabbed. Says it was a lot more organized in December, but some of the Proud Boys went their own way. Over 500 to 800 Antifa guys were there and only 350 Proud Boys. Really? Wow. You're kidding. We were fearful that some Proud Boys would be outnumbered and harmed. Proud Boys maintained a defensive posture. We were there only for defense, defending other Americans. I would never chase after Antifa. Proud Boys would actively seek Antifa after we were aware of reports of them targeting Americans. We weren't there looking for Antifa. So this is interesting. Transcription contradiction here. Proud Boys would actively seek Antifa after we were aware of reports of them targeting Americans, but we weren't there looking for Antifa. Okay, so I can see there. Now, did you have any feelings about law enforcement at the DC rallies? No. Anything change after DC? No. The standard was always back the blue. We always thanked officers for their service. In many of these rallies, we saw certain cops were aiding Antifa, so we shouldn't just say that every officer is guiltless. But we do support law enforcement, and we never change that in the club. Never change support for the Metro PD at all. Oh, thanks for that. Now, I want to go back to the stabbings you're talking about in December 12th, 2020. He says, yeah, there was a stabbing, and we created the Ministry of Self-Defense as a result. That's why I got in it, was to prevent what happened at the previous event. Proud Boys should be able to go home safely. He says, I participated in Zoom meetings for this. The purpose was not to find real men to confront the police. The purpose was to thin out those who couldn't control their behavior and their alcohol, and only have those who were somewhat upright representing the organization. Okay, we need to level this place up a little bit. So if you don't want to adhere to these new standards, you got to go. Hassan now puts up an exhibit. Looks like it's an application form in order to get into the chat. Can you tell me, did you fill out this form? Yeah. You recognize it? Yeah. Can you tell me, did you fill this out, this line? What does this line say? It says, do you affirm that you will not use drugs or alcohol during an event? Are you willing to devote yourself to the safety of your brothers? Also on the form. What's on this form? Well, if you wanted to be a part of this initiative, you had to fill it out. Number 4, what did that say? 4 says, I will always act in self-defense and I will never initiate a confrontation. What does that mean? Well, it means we will never start the fight. We're only there in a reactionary posture. And you were in the Proud Boys group for a while. Were there issues you had with any other members of the MOSD? Yeah, I disagreed on not going in colors. I thought we should be in colors. Did you guys talk about that? Yeah, there was mass confusion. There were 2 previous times we went to DC and we didn't know who was who. I felt there wasn't a marker to distinguish us from non-Proud Boys. Same thing would occur. So I said, we got to color up. Tario says, this is just the way the club operates. Okay, we take the cue from the local chapter, which was saying don't wear colors. They say don't wear colors, so we're not wearing colors. Says, I came to DC on J6. I was supposed to provide security for Latinos for Trump. Did you participate in the marches? No, I didn't participate in the Proud Boys March. I didn't meet at the Washington Monument. Well, tell me more about Latinos for Trump. Well, what is that all about? Well, it's exactly what it sounds like, he says. It's an organization that encourages Latinos to enter the Republican Party and support Trump. I did it on behalf of the Proud Boys. And no, I don't have a security license. Did you have any weapons? No, no weapons. What were you doing there? Well, I was just escorting Bianca and other members from A to B. And I arranged travel about a week before January 6th. I stayed at the Phoenix Park. No comms with Tarrio before. I arrived on January 5th. I think Tarrio was in Baltimore by then because he had already been arrested. And what were you doing there? He said, well, Latinos for Trump had acquired a stage, mainly about the vid and election stuff. My job was to escort them to and from the hotel. Tarrio was supposed to speak at the rally. Now, I want to show you this image. Can you tell me what that is? He says, yeah, it's an agenda for the day. Where was this shared? In the security chat for the Proud Boys. What does the agenda say? It says about 10 a.m. to noon, we're going to have the Freedom Rally. And who was supposed to be there? That's when Enrique Tarrio was going to speak. Now, this is a flyer, right? For the public. The address is the 301st Street. Is Tarrio in this image? No, he's not on the flyer. But Bianca told us in the chat that they're undetachable, that Tarrio would speak. The flyer does say other patriots would speak. So did you go there? Well, I went to the Capitol on January 6th around maybe 1:45 p.m. Did you see the Proud Boys there? No, did not run into them there. The communications and the cell phones weren't working. I couldn't even call my wife. I received no instructions from boots on the grounds or anything else. I was not carrying a radio. The only way I knew about event was media that was covering it when we walked into Bianca's room. I did not go into the Capitol. When I got there, no barricades or law enforcement was blocking entrance to the grounds. I was there for about 25 minutes with other members and then walked back to the hotel. I did not observe trespass signs or bike racks limiting where I could walk. I returned to the Capitol a second time. I began to interview people and ask them what they thought about the Proud Boys. I was doing independent journalism, had a website up called pb.tv so that people who never met Proud Boys could find how other Americans really feel about it. I was interviewing people of various racial and ethnic backgrounds, mainly people from different ethnicities, Spanish speaking, Colombia. The objective was to keep Proud Boys safe. So let's back up on that for a minute. Now, this is an interesting thing. Around 1:45, I've been always curious about the cell stuff because the cell towers did go down. We know when the Beast drove by, which was Trump's vehicle, because the live stream from our friend Eddie Block and his real good boy, Donnie, the St. Bernard, they lost their live stream when the Beast drove by, but that's not the whole day. So that's interesting. Okay. Anyways, we continue. He says the purpose was not to fight law enforcement. That's not why we were there. We wanted to insert order in the Proud Boys. We wanted to keep things more orderly. How to march, how to stay together, not to go off on their own and get ambushed. The purpose was not to obstruct an official proceeding, not to stop certification, not to stop the peaceful transfer of power. Never happened. What were you there for? The purpose was to peacefully demonstrate. No further questions. Hassan is done. Judge says, all right, well, we're going to take a 10-minute break now. And they take their break and they come back. And Judge Kelly is back on the bench. He says, hello, everybody. Welcome back from our break. USA prosecutor McCullough, he begins the cross-examination. So now the prosecutor is up at the podium cross-examining George. He says, all right, George, so you joined the Proud Boys in 2020. Is that right? Yeah. And you were interested in doing something about issues in America. Yeah. You said that you're somebody who's not afraid to get your hands dirty, right? Yeah. And your hands being dirty, that sometimes includes political violence. Is that true? Yeah. And you joined because of the riots? Is that what you said? The burnings of the buildings. related to racial injustice, right? That's how it was presented. That's fun. Now, we don't know what the makeup of this jury is or what they think about those Summer of Love riots. But he's basically tying those Summer of Love riots to racial injustice, saying they were protesting the racial injustice. We'll see how that lands with the jurors or if it matters at all. Prosecutor says, so the Proud Boys who attended rallies, you called them the Rally Boys. Is that true? Yeah, they were called the activists. Yeah. You were part of that group? Yeah. That was a new thing? Well, the tenets never really changed. I mean, there were times of peace and times of less peace, I'll say, but even those who joined as a drinking club knew they had a duty to protect Americans. The club was always polarized between people who wanted it to be a fraternity, but some who were willing to stand in harm's way to do what was right. And you were one of those, right? Yeah. You were in the Vice City chapter in Miami. Yeah. That's Tario's home chapter. Yeah. The Proud Boys, you guys saw yourselves at war with Antifa. Yeah. Maybe a civil war with Antifa. A peaceful civil war. Yeah. Peaceful civil war. Yeah. Well, you talked about reactionary conduct that was going out and looking for Antifa. That's what you said, right? Well, only after the fact, after they attacked Americans. So after you heard about violence by Antifa, then the Proud Boys would take to the streets and then seek out violence with Antifa, right? Objection. Can we be heard on this, Judge? Sidebar. The prosecutor comes back. You said that there was a bunch of growth in your membership in November 2020 after Trump mentioned the Proud Boys during a debate. You said that, right? Yeah. And in that exchange, Trump indicated he knew who the Proud Boys were. I think so. You viewed Trump as an ally of the Proud Boys, right? Objection, relevance. What is she? Don't talk about Trump here. Trump has nothing to do with this. This is a DC jury. Those jurors hate Trump as much as anybody. If Trump, get Trump out of here. Objection, relevance, sidebar. Prosecutor says, so you doesn't get to answer that question. You and Vice City Proud Boys were motivated by, what did you say? Defending election integrity? Well, not defending election integrity. We didn't have a plan to alter the conclusion or anything of whatever may have been decided upon. You believe there were problems with the election? He says, well, not necessarily. He says, well, the average person could disagree about some things, but a reasonable person could disagree about whether that affected the result. Now, the entire reason for your attendance, says the prosecutor, was motivated by the election, wasn't it? No, not exactly. Says we wanted to show support, hoping that Pence would initiate some sort of a recount that would have been seeking to keep Donald Trump in power, right? No. Well, you think Trump was the rightful winner of the election? Yeah, I do. But we were going to abide by whatever was decided upon. So they were just there to observe the outcome of whatever it was going to be. And guess what? It's exactly what happened. The outcome of the election was what it was. And this guy was not charged with any crimes. That's what he's there. Okay, we accepted it. And that's what the standard of the Proud Boys were. They weren't even challenging it. We were going to abide by whatever was there. And so you traveled with Tario to the November rally. Is that true? Yeah. You did that on a private plane? Yeah. And that was with Enrique Tario? Yeah. You follow Tario on Parler? He says, well, I wasn't very active on Parler, so no. Do you remember Tario's account? I don't remember. Tario posted a can of whoop ass en route to DC. Do you remember that? Here's what Tario said. Flying on a private plane. Nice. Can of whoop ass is en route to DC. Did you speak to Tario on the airplane? No. He was either sleeping or on his laptop the whole time. Now, I want to show you this video here, this exhibit here. Defense objection. Judge says, overruled. Play the video. Play whatever you want. Have fun. The video is a Proud Boy video of somebody called Gilbert Fontecoba. He's making a Proud Boy hand gesture, and now somebody else is making a hand gesture called Garcia. There's another person called Pedro who's there. You recognize these people? Were these all members of the Ministry of Self-Defense? I'm not sure. Prosecutor says, George, when you arrived in D.C. on 11/14, you were assigned to do security. Is that true? Yeah, I was there for security, and then we went back to the hotels. I got a text from the people that were being harmed in the streets, and there was video. So you put on gear. Yeah. Same gear we wear during the daytime. And you went out to go find Antifa, didn't you? Well, we went out there to prevent people from getting hurt. Yeah, but you said that you were, quote, chasing Antifa corner to corner, didn't you? Probably up on the screen. Well, the reason we were chasing them was cops were blocking our access. We were trying to confront these individuals. The police were attempting to keep you from Antifa? No, the police were trying to keep them from us. Antifa were the ones with weapons. I think the police were looking out for us. I want to show you this exhibit here, George. Now, you say the Proud Boys sought to get Antifa for about 2 hours. Is that true? Well, we were both trying to get at each other. The Proud Boys finally got through the police line. There was about a 3-minute fight at that incident. 3-minute fight. Some question about a number of Proud Boys. They say perhaps about 25 Proud Boys out of maybe 150. Objection overruled. How many Proud Boys did not engage in violence? 25 out of maybe 150. After the rally in November, were there discussions amongst the Vice City Proud Boys? Yeah. And the Proud Boys celebrated the violence? Objection. Overruled. I say, yeah, actually, there was a fair bit of gloating. We were proud to inflict violence on individuals, inflicting violence on other Americans. We were happy that they got what was coming to them. That's true. Sorry about that. Yeah. So the gloating was in a Telegram channel that included these people, Fontecoba, Garcia, and Tario. Yeah, we were all in the same chat. It was the chapter main chat. Said, I'd say for the Miami crowd, you had about maybe 6 or 7 who went. 2 or 3 of them were publicizing the rally. Were they celebrating? Yeah, celebrating. Yeah, there was some sort of achievement there. You know, a lot of the locker room talk was there. And you returned to D.C. December 2020 after that other rally, right? Yeah. Did you discuss how to prepare for the next one? Yeah. And you talked about programming radios? Yeah. And protective gear? Yeah. That's because 2 Proud Boys got stabbed that evening, right? Yeah. And you were present. Yeah, I was about 50 yards away. Were the Proud Boys beginning to get paranoid? Yes. There was a report that Antifa sent agents to attack Tario. There was an individual walking down the street in one of these rallies, and he was suspected of being Antifa. Is that true? Yeah, there were a few people. There were 2 stabbing events. Each stabbing had at least one individual carrying a knife. And that individual felt threatened by the Proud Boys. Objection. Overruled. Well, I didn't see that with my own eyes. I saw there was alcohol being misused. That's why we took measures next time. But yes, yeah, people were bored and stabbings occurred. Things, if you're bored sometimes. Go on a good, stabbing spree. That's Antifa, apparently. Here, McCullough says, well, I want to show you this exhibit. So this person is stabbing people, and the Proud Boys confronted him. Yeah. And he was attempting to defend himself. Yeah. And so he pulled out a knife. Oh. Well, I didn't see the incident. Sustained. But you're understanding that that person had been confronted by the Proud Boys. Objection sustained. Moves this into evidence. Objection. Judge reserves the ruling. So something happened here. I don't know what that was. I don't know if he pulled out a knife. Objection. Did he answer it? Didn't see the incident. Sustained. But he does get this question. He was attempting to defend himself? Yes. Then we get objections and the judge keeps the questions out. So based on what you heard, you didn't understand that individual to be Antifa. Objection, sustained. Sidebar. Prosecutor's having a hard time here. So you were standing in the street that evening, right? Yeah. When commotion took place, you focused your attention on it. Well, not necessarily. I didn't find out on stabbing until after the fact. Objection overruled. People were saying someone got stabbed. Prosecutor asks, in the material you just reviewed, how did you come to learn about the circumstances surrounding that night? Objection. Says, from what people were telling me there, don't remember who, another Proud Boy, most likely. So after December, you were selected for the Ministry of Self-Defense. Yeah. You were invited into the chat. Yeah. And into the vetting chat. No. Here's a form on the screen. It looks like you were invited into this form. You put your information in this application form. He says, I don't actually see the vetting chat. You were told that you should not tell anyone, even other members, about this group, right? Yeah. You were told that repeatedly, right? I don't remember that I was being told repeatedly. Common knowledge. McCullough says, you were told repeatedly? When we entered the chat, it was stated a second time. I was told repeatedly, don't share info from this group. Well, now I want to show you another exhibit. This looks like an application form. It says the image that was chosen for this chat was a man with a gas mask. You see that? He says, yeah, it may have been. Here's the group photo. Man with a gas mask. Is Tario a secretive person? Not necessarily. The Proud Boys is a private organization. And you were invited to join a video chat. Is that true? Yeah. Is the link to that chapter, it went to YouTube? Not necessarily. So everything that took place was streamed over the internet, wasn't it? Yeah. But the link wasn't publicly available. They did a live stream. It was an exclusive link. It was unlisted. Even what occurred was considered confidential. YouTube has a private section. I know this because I'm an IT guy. He's right, by the way, prosecutor. You can have private videos that are not public. But the video was broadcast on YouTube, wasn't it? Yes. There was a discussion of violence in the Telegram group, correct? Yeah. Same celebrations that we'd witnessed in other cities, yeah. Discussions of violence continuing unabated. He says, well, you have a bunch of guys who put their lives on the line to help ordinary Americans, so you had a lot of locker room talk. Yeah. This is some more of your discussion on this exhibit, right? So, well, I wasn't someone who frequented Telegram much. Prosecutor reads this quote. This could break some legs, just saying. Objection, sustained. Prosecutor says, want to kick A when it's time to kick A. Did you say that? I would consider that hyperbole. But there was violence in real life, though. It's not that hyperbolic. Absolutely. It's like football locker room talk, right? We never targeted anyone. It was always reactionary. A lot of poetic, hyperbolic statements. When you were on the receiving end of violence, does it feel better if it's just hyperbole? Objection, argumentative, sustained, sidebar. Stop being a jerk, Mr. Prosecutor. Jaraguay is smiling at the sidebar. Prosecutor's doing most of the talking. So it looks like McCullough may lose whatever this one's about. It's about him being a jerk is what it is. When you're on the receiving end of violence, does it feel better if it's just hyperbole? Within the MOSD chats, there were discussions about the Capitol. Is that true? Yeah. And some Proud Boys were from Vice City. Yeah. Gabriel said it's time to stack those bodies. What does that mean? I don't know. I was kicked out of the chat by then. Don't have access to what was going on January 3rd. No idea. I wasn't there enough to validate that one. Toward the end, I was kicked out. You were kicked out? Yeah. You think you got kicked out prior to January 3rd? I don't remember exactly when. So your testimony about the purpose of the chat is informed by not reading earlier chats and then being kicked out later. In other words, you don't know anything about the chats? Well, I was part of the video meetings and I was involved in policing this chat to make sure that there was no inappropriate statements made. If I see things unbecoming of a conservative, and that's why I was kicked out. Your understanding of the chat was it was based on an application form, right? Yeah. And you participated in video chats. Yeah, and two YouTube videos too. Judge says, just answer the question he asked, okay? Prosecutor says, your understanding was based on an application and a video chat, right? He says, not just those two things. Every time leadership posted something and pinned it, I'd read it. So the prosecutor is trying to get him to seem like he's not a part of the leadership. They're trying to make this leadership look like it's this amazingly talented cabal of insurrectionists who are going to seize power of the country. He's saying, I saw everything that they were talking about. It's none of that. You guys are crazy. So the prosecutor comes back out and says, well, you weren't really in a position to see any of that because you were just kind of not in there. You were kicked out before. You weren't in there after J6. You only got to be involved in these little areas, right? No, I'd read everything. Every time they'd read it, I'd pinned it. I'm not familiar with every single statement. But you didn't see this one, though, because you were kicked out, right? And you're sure you were kicked out before January 6th? Yes, I'm sure. Well, I want to show you this other one. It says, so are normies going to push through police lines and storm through the Capitol buildings? You didn't see that message? Nope, never seen it. What would they do if 1 million patriots stormed and took the Capitol? Did you see that message? I did not see that message. You said you policed the chat. Yeah, that's what I did, but I wasn't brought in. Was to do that. One thing you policed for were anti-Semitic comments, right? Yeah. Another thing was racist comments. Yeah. You took those concerns to Tario. Yeah. And you told him you disagree with those comments, right? Yeah. And he didn't stop those comments, right? Right. He sympathized, but he wanted to deal with this after the event. You felt people were saying things directly counter to the bylaws, right? Yeah. The bylaws say you're not supposed to be racist. You're not supposed to be anti-Semitic. True? Yeah. Yeah. But that's not what you experienced, is it? Objection. Sidebar. This whole time they left this exhibit here on the screen, says Roger. You did not believe that the racist and anti-Semitic language was consistent with the bylaws. True? Yes. You raised it with Tario 1 or 2 times. You raised in chats that it wasn't addressed. It was addressed. Enrique didn't have power to kick people out at a national level, but you were kicked out of the group. Yes. Because you were making these complaints about anti-Semitic comments. Actually, I don't know. I was never given an explanation for why I was kicked out. So you went to DC for J6 and you did not meet with Tario or any other defendants on January 5th, right? Right. You didn't go to the Washington Monument? No. You didn't go to the march? No. I was tasked with protecting Bianca Gracia. You didn't join them in a march to the Capitol? Correct. No cell phone communications with them? No. After the commotion, cell phones comms ceased. Didn't have a radio? Nope. Now, I want to show you a photo of yourself and 2 other people on the morning of January 6th. I want to ask what you're wearing. Mace is on the left, radio on his chest. He's standing next to the Greek. He has a radio. Greek has Vice City chapter on a plane to a November rally. He says, yeah, now I remember, had a radio to talk to Bianca's security. There were so many different stages, but couldn't always communicate. We never used these radios. Radios were given to us by a third guy, but we never did figure out how to use them. Guy on the right is who? Josh Macias. He was in Bianca's hotel room. Yeah. Judge says, all right, enough of this line of question. We're going to break for lunch here, ladies and gentlemen. Jury, you're excused. There will be 1 more hour of testimony. Then we're going to call it early a day. It's Friday, says the judge. So we'll go for another hour, and then we'll be back in no time. And so they go to lunch, have themselves a delicious sandwich, and we fast forward right back, and we're in business. Judge continues. Defense attorney Jaraguay for Enrique Tario. He says, Judge, before we start up again, I want you to admonish the next witness, this FBI informant, that she's still under subpoena and she's better be back here on Monday. Judge says she's been receiving death threats. Great. Seems like there were 2 Antifa bothering her. Uh-oh. Judge says, We may not get to you today, but there's an ongoing legal obligation you have until the party tells me they don't want to call you anymore. So it's a legal obligation that remains in place till I release you. Any questions? The FBI informant sits there and says, no. Defense says, should I release her now for the day? Should I let her go now? Can you imagine being her too? She just got outed as a Fed informant after she's been in prayer groups with these families. And she's still sitting there in court. The government doesn't want her. The defense is looking at her like she just betrayed everything because she did. Brutal. And from her perspective, what did the government have on her that was twisting her to do this? What were they threatening her with in order to make her do something so low? Invade prayer groups, go to defense attorney offices. Judge says, I think she should remain. And for reasons we should discuss. Now, the witness leaves the room. She was never identified in court. Prosecutor says, for the record, Judge, we will discuss with the defense the appropriateness of having witness assistance available for the witness. This is an issue in the present case. One of the reasons we've attempted to file things under seal. These things are serious. Yeah, no kidding. Defense says, Judge, since I filed it on the record, I'm not taking the fall. When this pops up in the middle, after the government has tried its case and just before a defense witness is ready to testify, they can't put this on us. I didn't identify the witness. Hassan for Enrique Tarrio says, my concern is this witness is Jewish, as you are aware. There may be concerns as far as this witness returning Monday as well. He's also under a continuing obligation to return. So this current witness, George, is going to come back too. Everyone's excused for lunch. They come back. Defense says, all right, Your Honor, there are certain images that the government wants to introduce, but we object to them. Prosecutor says, that's all right. Well, we're not going to even introduce those anyways. But I am going to discuss the role on the evening of J5 and ask about Bianca Garcia's room. He says that he saw Oath Keeper founder Stuart Rhodes and his girlfriend, Oath Keeper Kelly Soriel, at Gracia's room. Witnesses was also doing security at the stage for Gracia, so he may want to ask about whether the witness saw Rhodes and Soriel. Judge says, no, I don't think that's even appropriate, not within the scope of direct. Prosecutor says, yeah, but Judge, this witness claimed to be doing security, but why would he be going to the room of Gracia and seeing all these people? And what's that got to do with security? The judge says, well, I still don't understand how it's within the scope of the direct. What does that have to do with Stuart Rhodes? The defense is that this is all First Amendment and opportunities to give speeches to go to a rally, but the prosecutor says it's still relevant and within the scope that Stuart Rhodes is in the hotel with Gracia, and they're discussing their involvement the evening and the following day. It refutes the idea that this is done for free speech. Instead, prosecutor says it shows that the head of the Oath Keepers, who's just met with Tarrio in a garage the night before, is continuing to associate with Gracia, who is thick as thieves with, strike that, very close with Tarrio. And this is all supposed to be about a rally and a rally at noon. And the judge says, I just think it's beyond the scope for this witness. You think this undermines the idea that this is a First Amendment protection? But without more, I don't see how it does that. Prosecutor still arguing. He says, well, following the evening on January 6th, he posted to other Proud Boys that, quote, it was planned in our hotel room the night before by OKers and 3%ers. Then on January 8th, he said, I'm thrilled with what happened, and I don't know why people keep saying it's Antifa BLM. It was planned in our hotel room the day before. Nick Smith says, great, that's exculpatory. Perfect. Tell him that. This trial isn't about the Oath Keepers or the 3%ers. They said it was done by the Oath Keepers and the 3%. We're here for the Proud Boys. Judge says, all right, let me see the message on this one. Prosecutor shows the message. Why do people keep mentioning Antifa and BLM? We conservatives, they say, did that. Smith says, well, we'd asked that it was in the moment be included if you permit this. Pattis objects, says, no, it's going to confuse the issue. It's trying to smuggle in something by insinuation. Judge says, well, these are his statements, and I don't see why the government doesn't get to ask about them. The witness will say whatever he says about it. Lets it in. Carmen says, this is a chat involving a handful of Florida people. It's all hearsay. It's all Rule 403. My client never mentioned it, is never mentioned in it. Judge said, well, it's fair. Judge says it's fair. Smith says, what? That it was planned from our hotel room? It was the Oath Keepers and the 3%ers? What's the relevance to the Proud Boys? And the judge says, well, just because other people are also involved doesn't mean, he says, it's at least an implication that we planned it with them. So they're going to get to hear that too. Amazing. Judge is bringing in the jury. Prosecutor resumes the cross. He says, remind me about this. You went to rabbinical school? Yeah. And you ran a synagogue? Yeah. But you're a controversial figure, right? Yeah. Because you do mass conversions of people to Judaism. Yes. You refer free. What? I don't know what that is. You described your military service. Yeah. You separated from the military under the threat of court-martial because you've been AWOL for more than a year? Yeah, for more than 6 months. I don't recall the dates. That's what I was trying to achieve. Judge interrupts him. Don't know what that is about. Separated under other than honorable discharge to avoid a court-martial. Is that true? Yeah. Now, I want to go back to January 6th. You went to the stage about 12 to 15 minutes away from the Capitol. Yeah. You spent the entire morning there. Yeah. You were providing security for Bianca Garcia. Yeah. Other people were there. Yeah. You, the Greek, a third person was also providing security. True? Yes. Tario was supposed to have shown up between 10 a.m. and noon. Yes. But he didn't show up. Right. The Proud Boys marched that morning. It wasn't an official event. And you don't believe that Nordine Biggs and other people led the Proud Boys to the Capitol? No, I'm not familiar with that. They never came to your rally, correct? Right. They were not there to provide security to your rally, right? Correct. I can't say if they were there, why they were there. Never really met these individuals in the past. You never saw a large group of Proud Boys come to your rally site? Not that I remember. Now, after the breach, you didn't see any signs saying you couldn't be there? Correct. You found no officers were there telling you to stop? Correct. You didn't see any violence towards officers? No. I saw a door. The door I saw was never breached. It was within the building and there were officers there. You could see inside of the building? Yeah. The door had glass panels and they were cracked, but there were officers holding a door. At some point, an officer came out with a shield and pushed people back. I want to show you this video. Is this the door you were near? Yeah, that's the one. Do you see a violent melee here? They're shouting, our house, rioters clutching cloths over their noses. He says, I was there for about 15 minutes. That door was never breached. This person I was protecting, I went there. I went where they went. You were there to protect those women. It's their fault. Objection sustained. Is this you? Yeah, that's me. That's me escorting the women out. Is that door open right there? Well, I didn't see that. That happened after I left. So your job was to escort the ladies away from the door after the door was breached. I never saw it breached. I was walking away. 3 seconds later, the door was opened. Did you see protesters move into the building? Not through that door. So you were escorting women to safety and you didn't see what happened 10 to 15 seconds later? Yeah, right. It was so densely populated. I was just trying to get out. You understood the purpose of going to DC on January 6th, didn't you? Yeah. People were there to try to prevent the steal from going through. Is that true? Yeah. You think people that went inside the building are heroes? I don't think anyone at that time thought that they were doing anything wrong. You believe people who went inside are heroes? Yes, I do. In your view, breaking into the Capitol is a legitimate form of political protest? It says, I believe protesting at that moment, the whole country knew what was happening. No one knew what was happening. After the fact, I think that what happened classified these people as heroes. You believe they're heroes because one man's freedom fighter is another's terrorist? Objection sustained. You posted a statement describing your views following J6, right? Overruled. I don't remember. Well, let me show you this exhibit. Sidebar. Hernandez and Hassan go up and start talking to the judge. Judge says, all right, everybody, we're going to leave it there for the day. Going to go ahead and excuse you for the weekend. And just a reminder, do not talk to anybody about the case. Do not watch the news. Have yourselves a good weekend. Please be safe. Goodbye. They come back. The jurors are gone. Judge says, okay, look, was this video on January 6th or January 7th? Prosecutor says, in January, the statement is bracketed by uhurus. On the direct exam, the Ministry of Self-Defense was about people staying safe, keep together. And then on cross, he fought me on the idea that he or anyone else had the mindset of stopping the certification. But this is what was in his mindset and what he felt comfortable sharing. And so we should have gone further. We didn't go far enough. It's impeaching of his testimony about what he was there to do, what the objective was. It also goes to the primal nature of it, the bias he has to protect these defendants who he views as heroes. The defense says, okay, Judge, still, it's outside the scope. It's hearsay. It's 4 days after the event. It's no reference to the Proud Boys as far as what they did or what these individuals did. The judge says the bias point would supersede all of that. If it's bias, it's always within scope. He was thrown out of the chat, says Norm Pattis. He never saw the defendants on J6. There's not even a nexus to the defendants. Prosecutor says, I don't think there's case law that because the video shows bias, that it's not admissible. He's sharing his view with his fellow brothers about how he strongly believes these guys are heroes. Yeah, but he doesn't mention the Proud Boys at all. Prosecutor says, I'm not sure when I'll get into this, but he was in the chats through J6. He didn't get kicked out until after. As a factual matter, he was involved in these chats, he says. Judge says, well, I've heard enough on that. Now I want to know whether we need to seal the courtroom to talk more about the confidential human source, the FBI informant. Prosecutor is like, sure, perfect, seal it right up. The defense says, no, we object to that, Judge. We object to sealing the courtroom. Her name is out there already. Well, that's part of the basis. There are other bases for sealing this. Government says, well, to the extent that some other reporting has been shared, if we get into the substance of that, it could jeopardize other items, Judge. Our preference would be, if we can avoid sealing, probably fine. Second thing would be to ask the court if there's more attorney-client material they plan to discuss. Judge says, all right, well, we'll get to that. The first part of the discussion is how to proceed. Biggs, Norman Pattis, representing Biggs, chimes in. He says, we've met with Taint Counsel. We don't know what the government has. We don't intend to address any attorney-client claims because we're in the dark here. Judge says, I'd asked parties, as we read earlier, to provide additional facts if they had them. Receive some info from one defendant. Our conversation this morning, Mr. Jaraguay, suggested there are more facts out there. Jaraguay says, yes, Judge. Last night, I did provide a sworn recorded statement from the witness to the government. I can provide it to the court if you'd like. Prosecutor says, yes, it's been said to the prosecution team and to the taint team as well. Judge says, all right. Well, in light of that, I've got a motion for an evidentiary hearing in front of me. Two layers here. One, do I need to develop the facts further? And two, what would we do outside the presence of the jury and what would we do inside the presence of the jury? I have to develop the facts and the rule on that outside the presence of the jury. If there's a violation, then I do what's appropriate. Prosecutor says, before we break, I would just like to ask Carmen Hernandez to put something on record. Stephen Metcalf, representing Pizzola, chimes in. He says, one of my potential witnesses, Lisa McGee, popped her head into the courtroom. I'll make sure that doesn't happen again. Sorry about that, Judge. I think that's Dominic Pizzola's wife. Judge says, Mr. Pattis, you're not going to face any discipline for that photograph you took in the courtroom, given that it was done in the spirit of zealous advocacy. That related back to the testimony of Nicole Miller. They're taking a 10-minute break. Roger says, frankly, I thought it was legitimate. He was trying to cast doubt on Miller's ability to identify Proud Boys out of an overhead CCTV shot of a crowd. Yeah. It was crazy. That was when FBI agent Nicole Miller was like looking at these little pinheads on a photograph. And she's like, that's a Proud Boy. That's a Proud Boy. That's a Proud Boy. I'm Where's Waldo world champion. You go, wait a minute, what? And so she was circling all these things, identifying that guy with the red hat that's the size of 2 pixels. Proud Boy, Proud Boy, Proud Boy, Proud Boy, Proud Boy. You go, what? So he took a picture of that and then asked her to do it again. And guess what? All of her circles looked a little bit differently because she's full of crap. So he took a photo of that and the judge scolded him. On cross, he asked her to identify them on a blank version, compared the 2 photos. She did a pretty good job of repeating the performance, but it still was outside the judge's approval. Judge comes back from the break. He says, all right, I'm back. All right, how are we proceeding? Jeriguai says, we're ready to call this witness. We don't need anything. We just want to call her on Monday after Mesa finishes testifying. Don't have any issues. Some of the other defendants have. No intrusion into our defense camp. Nick Smith says, well, we don't have any objection to Tario's proposal. All the issues can be explored on the cross exam, so they just want to get this informant on the stand. Judge says, yeah, but that ignores what I said. There may be things that are appropriate to explore at evidentiary hearings outside the jury's presence. But that's not what Jeriguai wants. This is great. He says, no, we don't have any problems. No, we just have our witness. It's crazy that she's an informant. That's crazy. But she's still our witness, and we want to put her on there, like right now. And the fact that she's a government informant, that's their problem. So they didn't tell us. We're in the middle of trial. We could have had this evidentiary hearing before the trial started back in January when they terminated the relationship with her. They could have told us then. They didn't. They found out the day before trial. So they say, we're ready. We don't need to change anything. They screwed it up. It's their mistake. Let them deal with it on the back end if they don't like it. But the judge is going to run interference for them. Yes, they screwed up big time, but now the judge is asking, oh, I know you're ready, defense. I know you want to go forward with this case and present it and put this informant on the stand, but I don't want to do that. That ignores what I said. There may be things appropriate to explore at an evidentiary hearing outside the jury's presence, which could have been done a long time ago if the government had properly disclosed her, but they didn't. The defense says, well, Judge, there's another issue on this, okay? Whether there's been an intentional intrusion into the defense camp, it's a legitimate question for cross-examination. If we put her up there on the stand, I'm going to ask her about that. You were in their office in Miami? The hell were you doing there? You were being paid by the government when you were sitting there? We can't wait to get into that. Yes, it's bias. It's all of these things that the judge has been allowing the prosecutors to get away with. Why can't the defense do it too? Let's see. Norm Pattis says, us too, Judge. We're ready to roll. Let's go. We might need another evidentiary hearing separately, but on this one, we're ready. Carmen says, we're also fine with proceeding. Don't need anything else from us. I have a witness scheduled to self-surrender on Tuesday. So she's, apparently ready to come in. Roger Roots for Pizzola says, Judge, with regarding this issue, this counsel issue, we don't have a problem like the other camps. This witness hasn't had any contact with our camp, though we're still looking into it. We have issues related to disclosure and other Brady problems, failure to turn over exculpatory information. The judge says, okay, but look, if we call this person, really doesn't want him to call her, the question becomes what's in and out of bounds. Prosecutor says, okay, well, we agree with the path forward. We can call her. The issue is the scope of the direct and the cross. They want to limit what they can get into. Says, I think the audio tees up what's relevant and appropriate. We disagree with Smith's view that the invasion of the defense camp is fair game on cross. Of course they do. They really want that to not come in. The judge says, all right, let's do it this way. You all could lay out for me what the controversial areas are. I can listen to Jeriguai's recording. I don't know what that is, and take it under advisement over the weekend. Don't know what that recording is. All right. So inappropriate conduct. The prosecutor says, we think it's inappropriate to suggest inappropriate conduct by the government under the federal rules of evidence. They are such losers and whiners and babies. We can't talk about your invasion of the defense camp by your own confidential human source and the disclosure of the informant in the middle of trial. You don't want us to talk about that? Big says, I have no intention of getting into comms with Biggs. Tario says, I do want to get into her relationship with two different handlers. I want to know about the amount of time it takes, how much time she spent with them. I want to know whether the info she provided about J6 was taken seriously. We have a right to attack whether the FBI did a thorough investigation, whether they followed leads, whether this person gave exculpatory info. I'm going to stay away from her communications with my client. But the government had all of these CHSs, and not a single one of them told the government that our clients had a plan to storm the Capitol. Isn't that interesting? Not a single one of them. Maybe 10, maybe 15 of them. Judge says, well, I did admit some evidence about some folks in a position to know. But this person, as far as what I've been provided, was not a CHS on J6. This person is not similarly situated to other CHSs for which I permitted evidence to be submitted. Trying to distinguish this. This judge is trying so hard to keep this person out, or to keep the questions to this person out. Monday is going to be a disaster. Jerigwai says, says judge, look, yeah, maybe she was different. Maybe she was not. The other person that was allowed to come in was not a CHS on J6. She was on J6. Says, defense chimes in, she would testify, Your Honor, that she was in 100 different Telegram groups. She was friends with multiple Proud Boys. She saw no chatter on any of those groups about any plans on J6 to storm the Capitol. Whenever she saw anything amiss, she'd call her handlers. The materials we've been provided are incorrect. It was not 16 conversations. It was more like 40 conversations with her handlers. 40? The materials we got, the materials we've been provided are incorrect. It sounds like the government said that they've been in contact 16 times, but guess what? This woman apparently has got evidence of 40 conversations with her handlers. So why is the government only disclosing 16 of those conversations if there were more like 40 interactions? Judge says, maybe you could say you had, quote, an informal relationship and she didn't call the FBI up. What? The defense for Nordine says, okay, so the court agrees we're allowed to explore bias and incentive to fabricate. If the informant is tasked with reporting on the defendants in the case, and that is how they earn an income, there's a possibility they would fabricate a testimony on a subject to please their handlers. That's something we're entitled to explore given good faith basis we have to believe there was unusual activity like having her in defendant and attorney's offices. It's an issue of bias and it's an incentive to fabricate. The judge says, okay, so you want to ask, did the government task you with obtaining info about my client? Yeah. I want to ask if she was tasked by the FBI to do that. Yes, and related witnesses and whether they had conversations with the handler about my client, even without being tasked to do so, right? The FBI said, we never tasked her to do it. Okay, but she was tasked to give you info. Did any of that info include those areas? You may not have been tasked to do it, but you may have gotten it anyways. And the defense says another thing, Judge. She did talk to her handler about the Proud Boys rallies that she'd been to. She talked about Biggs and Tario's. She's a percipient witness. She started in 2018, the government says. Well, it wasn't formalized until April 2020. One of what she said something like, Smith says she gives some responses in audio that are inconsistent with the content of the records we received from the government. Regarding the number of contacts? Yeah. Judge says it sounds much sketchier than what I've admitted previously. Says, yeah, she's being paid, has incentive to come up with stuff. Our good faith basis here is the series of unusual contacts she's made, which I filed under seal. Prosecutor says, hold on a minute, Judge. Hold on a minute. Once you hear the recording, I think you're going to be in a much better position to judge whether there's any good faith basis for inquiring about whether she's invaded the defense camp, okay? She was not reporting on the Proud Boys, would never report on the Proud Boys, would only report on our side. Says it's a 36-minute recording. You're going to hear the back and forth. I think some of the questions you'll hear would be inappropriate to come out before the jury course. Suggestion that the government outed you. Didn't even give you the courtesy of a heads up before doing this or that. You'll hear it. Prosecutor says, Mr. Jerichois is very good, and I say this very warmly, at insinuating things with his body and his voice. Prosecutor doesn't like the defense. He's very good, and I say this warmly, at insinuating things with his body and voice. Do you mean like persuasion? Oh my gosh. Prosecutors have a hard time acting like human beings, interacting with society. That's why they work for the government and just prosecute other defendants. And they just hang out with themselves and other people in law enforcement. And they sort of, stroke themselves about justice, all these things. Ridiculous. So making fun of this defense attorney for being good, insinuating things with his body and voice. Pathetic. Embarrassing. I don't want insinuation that's government's done something improper through the questions. Nobody's insinuating anything, idiot. We're outright saying that you are corrupt and completely unethical in this trial. Okay, I'll just say it outright. Sheesh Louise. Judge says, what was the original? What was her testimony that we haven't discussed? Well, she was there on J6 watching the Trump speech. I think she was going to give a speech. Trump went long. At one point, she said she'd been in Latinos for Trump. Hernandez says, well, now we're talking about a witness who's been sentenced. Self-surrender date extended to Tuesday. Apparently, that's Jeff Finley. Prosecutor says, well, the order is to report tomorrow. Let's check with the marshals. Judge says, I can check. Let me call if need be. Says, we'll deal with this later. I'll listen to the video over the weekend. We're done here today. It's Friday. I'm tired. I got to get the hell out of here. Judge says, I got to beat the rush hour traffic. We're done. I'll see you at 9 a.m. on Monday. Have a great weekend, everybody. All right. All right. Judge is gone. That's Judge Kelly, my friends. That is the end of the Proud Boys trial this week. And boy, oh boy, was it a doozy. So the judge is going to be having some homework to do, to be listening to both sides and weighing arguments from the various different prosecutors. Jason McCullough doesn't have a profile photo. It's probably why he's not very persuasive. Anyways, that was Sabino Jerichois closing us out, asking whether or not his own intern is a CHS. Very good question. Judge doing everything they can to keep this train on the tracks, which means leading right down the road to convictions from the Proud Boys. We'll, of course, continue to follow it. We'll be back on Monday with day 43. Should be a doozy. We'll look forward to seeing you there. Thank you for subscribing, and thank you so much for sharing this story with others. This Proud Boys trial is one of the most grotesque things we've ever covered here, because it is active maliciousness from the DOJ, and they're covering it up. They don't even feel bad about it. It's horrible, and it's pernicious. It's not stopping anytime soon. So the more people that can scream about this and demand some action in the DOJ, maybe the House Oversight Committee, maybe the Judiciary Committee in the House or the Senate, the DOJ is out of control. They're embedding FBI informants into different various groups, including defense attorney offices in Miami, while they're preparing for a trial. Unbelievable. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for subscribing. We'll look forward to seeing you on the next one. All right, my friends. Well, it's been a busy week indeed. And now it is time to hear from you and to see what you have to say. Of course, we're going to go over to our after party at watchingthewatchers.locals.com and for our YouTube members on Telegram. But first, let's say hello to you and to see what you have to say about all of this and more on this very busy week. It's been a doozy. Hey, Zulu gifted some memberships. And Zulu, I saw a couple other, thank you, Zulu, for doing that. Who is over on YouTube? So Zulu just gifted some memberships. Curtis Bartle has been gifting memberships this entire show. Thank you, Curtis. Thank you, Zulu. I've been watching and I've been seeing them come in. And this is great because we do member only morning streams. So if you like this show, we do a whole section or whole basically separate stream, which is a little bit of a different vibe. We kind of slow things down. It's a little earlier in the day. We're kind of warming up, a little more casual, a little less energized, but it's fun. And some people say it's even better than what we do here. You'll have to come check it out. Watchingthewatchers.locals.com and our YouTube members, Zulu, Curtis, Dolphin Fan. We've got a bunch of people. If I forgot you, I apologize, who are helping our morning chats grow. And we're very grateful for that. And so let's see who is in the house today. See, Dolphin Fan even sent in a super chat today on our morning stream. We were talking this morning, and Dolphin says, have a blessed and fun weekend, everybody. You too, Dolphin. Hiram Bifidum, are you related to the regionally ranked distance runner John Govea from New Jersey? No, I don't think so. But my uncle is named John, and I have another uncle named Joe. Shout out to Uncle Joe. Shout out to Uncle John. And I'm not a long distance runner at all. So I'm not even sure we're in the same genome, if you know what I'm saying. But thank you for that. From our friend Hiram Bifidum. We got Michael Allen Hughes says, America lies about our greatness to the world. From Michael Allen Hughes. Well, you know, I used to think that America was a place where we had this massive liberty dividend. You know, by being an American, you've got all these liberties that we got to cherish, and that nobody crapped all over like they did in other parts of the world. See how that's going for us. And I mean that significantly, right? Our liberties were curtailed massively during the pandemic, and that liberty dividend is being flushed down the toilet, often by Americans themselves who have no idea what they're doing to their lives. But good to see you, Michael. Les c'est la vie. C'est la vie. Lay, c'est la vie. Is that how I say it? Good to see you, Lay. Les says, any help to get on a grand jury in Arizona? I would love to serve. I don't think you can't really apply for something like that. I'd make sure you're registered to vote, and if you're here in Arizona, your address is updated with the MVD, and that all of your papers are in order, and maybe you'll get called. Good luck to you. Hopefully you do. You'd probably be great on there. Hey, Fred Pedamonte's here. He says, hey, Rob, it's Johnny. Fred's in the back room. Oh, it's Johnny's here today. I mean, normally Fred is telling us what Johnny's doing, which is always wild. But Johnny actually got the phone today. This is crazy. Okay, so let's see what he says. Hey, it's Johnny. Fred's in bat room. Sorry, fro spelling. I have pause! Exclamation point. That's pretty dang good. That's pretty good. That's kind of what my text messages from my mother look like. I often joke that she types her text messages with her forehead. I don't know how she does it. It's amazing. But so Johnny's here. Says, oh, him's back. Okay, so Fred's back. He says, hey, sorry, Johnny's learning to type. We have big news for everyone on Monday. Wow. He's smart, man. It's probably some of those genetics, those genetic pills he got from Epstein Island. I don't know what's going on. He's very intelligent. He's able to use cell phones now. It's crazy. Like Chat GPT is going on in there. I got big news on Monday. Johnny's going to be unveiling something. Hopefully it's not a declaration of war. Gosh, we'll be bracing ourselves for impact. All right. Thanks, Fred. Hopefully you had a nice movement in the bathroom and you're feeling light and free. We have Zulu's here. Says Curtis Bartle is coming in hot with the community membership fortification. Yes, Curtis Bartle and Zulu. Thank you, guys. Yes, says coming in hot. We love it. The membership is fortifying and fortificating itself very nicely. And if you're on YouTube, don't forget to grab the Telegram link, because there's a bursting Telegram community that looks like this. Here's Brenda. She says TGIF. Look at this. Look at this very happy puppy. See, look at that smile. Man, that's good teeth. I wonder who his dentist is. Beautiful. See, we also have some other comments. We got Pepe's in there. Who else is going on over there? We got Alvin Bragg's over there. So grab our Telegram if you're a member on YouTube. Grab the link. Come join us, because that's where the after party will be. And thank you, Zulu. And thank you, Curtis. And thank you, Dolphin Fan. Dolphin Fan just dropped another one and said, says amazing work. Thank you, Dolphin. Will you be on tomorrow morning? Yes. So for our members, we'll do a morning stream. Saturday morning, indeed. I usually take Sundays off, but we'll do something Saturday for sure and see what the headlines look like. Who else do we have? Thank you, Zulu. Woods Precision Arms says, seriously, why doesn't the defense rest? Every witness they call, the prosecution gets to recross out of scope, far out of scope, and gets to shape whatever they want. Just end it. Absolutely insane. Woods Precision is like, Can we put us out of our misery, please? Just put us out of our misery. We can't take it anymore. It's bad. It's really, really not good. I agree completely. But if we get this CHS on the stand and they get to ask her some questions, the judge allows even a little bit of inquisition here, that will be amazing. But again, I'm not going to hold my breath on that. Let's see who else is over on Twitter and see what's going on over there. We have 4 viewers on Twitter. The whole website might come crashing down. Let's see who's over here. James Pepper says DC courts are so corrupt that there needs to be a constitutional amendment to remove cases like this and something like that, or eliminating the DC Circuit Court. Yeah, Dapper Dan says Snoop was pointing guns at Trump. Kathy Griffin was holding a knife to the head and so forth. And no issues there. Yeah, the sitting president. Lawyers should be in fear right now, says Danny McWilliams. I think a lot of lawyers probably are asking themselves where all the feds are in their houses, talking to their wife, honey, why were you in Langley last week? Here's this one from Pumpkin Marie. Says, hey, saw you on Viva's stream today. We had a great time with Viva. Love talking with Viva. Says, great job informing him about how the government is destroying the justice system. The more people who know, the better. And thanks for being one of the only people who care enough about George Kelly. Pumpkin Marie says, Rob is calm energy and the Viva is caffeinated passion. Together, they are unstoppable. More streams, please. Yeah, we should get some of those rings and we can collect our rings and you'll take over the I don't know. Here's this one. Don't forget to get your Field of Greens from Rebecca John. Yeah, but Viva did say something that stuck out to me. He said that I'm nice and calm and slow or something like that. And you're saying that too. Calm energy. I tell you what, sometimes I feel like I'm revved up at level 1 trillion and I'm about to explode and burst at the seams. The fact that anybody thinks it's calm is a nice thing, I guess. It certainly doesn't feel that way. Sometimes I feel like I'm about to explode through the window. All right. So that was from our friends over on Twitter. And I see Woods Precision Arms is in the house again and says, by the way, you are awesome at reading these transcripts. You kind of have the attitudes. This should be every single day. I'm hooked. Thanks, Rob. Thank you, Woods Precisions. I appreciate that, my friend. I'm having fun with them. I try to liven them up a little bit. I know these things can somewhat be a little bit dry. Although this one, I don't think I'm doing much I don't think we're adding a whole lot of flavor to this one. This one is quite stacked with spice without anything. But thank you, Woods Precision, for being here and for saying those very nice things. We want to say hello to our friends on Rumble. Of course, we were over on Rumble today. We had a lot of fun over there with Viva. Annie, get your gun. We got Elucidation Station. Little Galaxies in the house. We got user 1121. Sergeant Justice is asking about Telegram. Who owns Telegram? User is asking about the Carlson letter. Yeah, Ray Epps is suing Tucker on the pretext of suing Tucker Carlson. And those are our friends over on Rumble. Of course, we appreciate you subscribing over there. Hey, we had a tip come in on Rumble from 1R5. Here's what he said. He says, Donald Trump is just challenging Mr. Bragg to a baseball game. Hello. He's not threatening violence. It's friendly sport. I wonder what position Alvin Bragg would play. I don't know. Good to see you there, 1R5, and our friends over on Rumble. Appreciate you guys. And our over on locals, we are going over to locals for our after party. But before we do, we have to say hello, because I think I see something in the chat over there that looks very interesting. Let's grab this one. From our meme smith extraordinaire, Geegum Geegum is in the house. Here is what we have. Oh, from Geegum Geegum. Shine that big, beautiful spotlight, baby. It's like Atlas holding up the planet, right? Spotlight, watching the watchers, baby. Thank you for that, Geegum. I got to work out a lot harder than that, for sure. It's a little little more girth than I've got, unfortunately. I appreciate the compliment. It's a very nice compliment. And we are, baby, we're shining that spotlight down. We are illuminating all of the horrors throughout our justice system. And we're very grateful for your help in doing that. I think that it's critically important. I know a lot of people get frustrated with the, go vote and go get involved and share this and share that and all of its stuff. But I think that the more people actually recognize what the FBI is doing, what the DOJ is doing, what actually happened on J6 and how this is all unfolding, the more they're going to wake up. In fact, I saw a poll today that a huge portion of Americans are now actually questioning the official J6 story or thinking that the feds either allowed it to happen or were negligent in allowing it to happen. So more will come out. The work continues on. Thank you to Jigam Gigam for sending that in. I very much appreciate it. And hopefully you're having a beautiful week too. But that, my friends, okay, I think we're going to leave it there. We are done for the day. Welcome to Zone 7, who just became a member. Don't forget to grab the Telegram links in the chat because we're not done here yet. We're going to go hang out for a little bit more on this lovely Friday. But if you're not joining us, my friends, over at watchingthewatchers.locals.com, we are going to leave it there. Don't forget to check out fieldofgreens.com this weekend. It's a good place to go to get your daily servings of your fruits and vegetables and a ton of other stuff. Sleep stuff. They've got other things they're launching. It's good. It tastes good. It is healthy and nutritious. You're going to love it. Don't forget to use code Robert when you check out at fieldofgreens.com. Also, want to shout out my former law firm. I'm no longer there, but they are still doing amazing work in Scottsdale, Arizona, helping good people charged with crimes find safety, clarity, and hope. And so if you're looking for a great defense team, rrlawaz.com is the place to go, or 480-787-0394. Also want to thank the mods who mod down the fort for us and keep things nice and orderly. Our friends Vienticus Prime, K-Bean, Just Cause, Playing Hooky, Ronnie Cole, our friend Zulu, Geomancy, Zach Nichols, and John Allen. I almost smashed those two names together, gentlemen. Zallen, something like that. Zach Nichols and John Allen over on Telegram. We also want to shout out our friend Sleepy Dog Lee on Twitter and Jigam Gigam, our amazing meme smith. But that, my friends, is it for us. We are going over for our after party. I'd love to see you there. But if not, we will be back here on Monday to do it all again. And we'll look forward to seeing you there. Until then, my friends, it's the weekend. Hopefully we can unplug a little bit, recharge those batteries. It's going to be a doozy of a week. We're going to have Trump stuff. We're going to have Proud Boys trial. Hopefully some closure on some of these issues. And we'll get into it good. But until then, I hope you have a beautiful weekend. You rest up, sleep very well, and we'll see you right back here on Monday. Make it a great weekend, my friends. Bye-bye.